This is the Nissan Leaf, the car that arguably started the mainstream electric revolution. Back in 2010, it was the first mass-produced EV aimed squarely at everyday people. It promised a future without gas stations, lower tailpipe emissions, and a smarter way to commute. But there was a catch. The early Leaf had a painfully limited range, a charging infrastructure that was practically non-existent, and honestly, a design that screamed compliance car rather than cool car. It just wasn't practical for the average American driver. Fast forward 15 years. The 2026 Nissan Leaf has arrived, completely redesigned from the ground up, re-engineered for the modern world, and ready to settle the score. The big question hanging in the air is simple: did Nissan finally get it right this time? Let's break down every single detail and find out. First up, let's talk about the design, because this is where the old Leaf's identity gets completely thrown out the window. The previous generation looked small, bubbly, and to be brutally honest, it was about as exciting as a toaster on wheels. It was an appliance, not an object of desire. But the 2026 model, it now adopts a modern, SUV-inspired crossover silhouette that finally looks premium and aggressive. It has road presence. Interestingly, it's actually slightly shorter in length than the outgoing model, but clever design trickery makes it look wider, planted, and significantly more imposing. And check out the aerodynamics. With a drag coefficient of just 0.26, it slices through the wind cleaner, which directly translates to better highway efficiency. This isn't just a simple refresh. This is a full-blown identity transformation. The Leaf has finally hit the gym. Now let's address the elephant in the room for any EV shopper in the United States: range. Real-world range. And this is where the new Leaf finally shuts up the haters and delivers a knockout punch to its own legacy. The base model now delivers an EPA-estimated range of up to 303 miles. The mid-level trim gives you approximately 288 miles. And even if you splurge on the fully loaded top trim, you're still looking at a very usable 259 miles. That puts the Leaf not just in the conversation, but ahead of many key competitors in the compact EV segment. For the daily commute, the school run, or a weekend trip out of town, this means fewer unplanned stops at crowded charging stations, zero range anxiety, and total peace of mind. And honestly, this level of freedom is exactly what people were begging for back in 2010. In the early days of EVs, charging was the biggest pain point. It felt like you needed a degree in logistics just to plan a trip. But Nissan has finally thrown that old frustration into the rearview mirror for the 2026 model. And the headline news here: the port. The 2026 Leaf now comes standard with the NACS port. That's the North American charging standard. In plain English, this Nissan can plug right into Tesla Superchargers without a clunky adapter. That's a game changer for US road trips because it instantly unlocks the most reliable fast charging network in the country. Of course, standard level 2 home charging is there for overnight top-ups. But let's talk about speed when you are on the go. Real-world tests show you can go from 10% to 80% in roughly 40 minutes. And if you're just in a hurry, you can add 100 miles of range in about 13 minutes. That's literally the time it takes to order a latte and use the restroom. Charging is no longer a logistical nightmare. It's just a quick pit stop. Okay, let's talk about how this thing moves. Let's be clear. The Leaf was never meant to be a Porsche take-in rival, and that's perfectly fine because most drivers don't need that. But that doesn't mean it's a slouch. Under the hood, or rather under the floor, you've got an electric motor pushing out 214 horsepower. That's enough punch to launch you from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 6.9 seconds. To put that in perspective, that's quicker than a lot of gas-powered sedans stuck in the left lane. In city traffic, the instant torque of the electric motor makes it feel zippy and responsive. You dart into gaps effortlessly. There's even a sport mode that sharpens the throttle response if you want a little more fun on the on-ramp. But overall, the tuning is focused on smoothness and quiet cabin comfort, not track times. For the daily grind on US highways and city streets, this is exactly the right balance step inside. And this is where the cheap EV stereotype completely evaporates. Nissan seriously stepped up their game with the cabin materials and technology. The centerpiece is a massive 14.3-inch touchscreen display that curves elegantly across the dash, combining both infotainment and the driver's instrument cluster into one seamless panel. The interface is clean, modern, and thankfully, it runs on Google built-in. That means you get Google Maps with real-time traffic prediction right on the big screen, no phone required. You also get a suite of modern conveniences that US buyers expect. Heavy checkmark wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Standard. Heavy checkmark a wireless charging pad that actually holds your phone in place. Heavy checkmark premium soft touch materials on the dash and door cards. Heavy checkmark. And an optional Bose Personal Plus sound system that's genuinely impressive for a car starting in the low $30,000 range. The cabin feels surprisingly upscale. This isn't just an affordable EV anymore. It's a genuinely nice place to spend time in LA traffic. But let's keep it real. No car is perfect. And the Leaf still has to make some compromises to fit that sleek new shape and price point. Space is where the Leaf shows its compact roots. The front seats are excellent. They're comfortable and supportive, perfect for long commutes on the interstate. However, step into the back seat and things get a bit tighter. If you're hauling around adults who are 6 feet tall or taller, they're going to find legroom and headroom a little bit snug. Cargo space behind the rear seats is decent for groceries or a couple of carry-on suitcases, but it's not class-leading by any stretch of the imagination. So what's the verdict on practicality? If you've got a family of 4 with teenagers and a big dog, this might not be the ultimate road trip warrior for you. It's optimized more for singles, couples, or small households where the back seats are occasional use only. Finally, let's talk about the bottom line, because this is where the 2026 Nissan Leaf becomes an absolute steal in the US market. The entry-level model starts around $31,000. The well-equipped mid-trim is hovering around $35,000. And if you go all out on the top-tier model, you're looking at roughly $40,000. For an electric vehicle with over 300 miles of range, NACS charging capability, and a genuinely premium interior, that pricing is seriously aggressive. It undercuts the Tesla Model 3 and the Hyundai Kona Electric by a significant margin. After 15 long years, the Nissan Leaf has finally grown up. It's no longer the quirky little electric car. It's a practical, efficient, and smart choice for the modern American driver. So now the real question is yours. Backhand index pointing right, would you take this over a Tesla Model 3 or a Chevy Equinox EV? Drop your pick in the comments below. We want to hear what you think.